Do you ever feel like you and your significant other just argue in endless cycles? They don't really listen. By the end of it, you're more exhausted than you are feeling hopeful that anything's really going to change. Can you relate? Let's talk about 3 ways to fight fair in the relationship. And as a bonus, at the end, I'll give you a technique for de escalating the situation when things are starting to get a little heated. I'm Janelle Elias, and I help high performing couples avoid feeling like distant roommates, bring back some of that closeness again, and build real, lasting growth. Just as a quick heads up, this video is a crash course summarizing several couples counseling techniques boiled down to the nuggets that are meant to get you on the road to progress as quickly as possible. As with any deep insight, some of these are going to be easier said than done. They're going to take some practice. So feel free to save this video and go back and reference it as needed. My first recommendation for fighting fair in the relationship is to give your partner a chance to have their say first. Now, in the past, when I've mentioned this, I've had couples go up to me and say, why do I need to give them the chance to have their say first? My needs matter. And you're absolutely right. But first of all, in relationships, you can't have a losing side. The relationship only wins if you both feel like you're walking away winning. So let's get out of our heads this idea of me versus them. I need to speak up. I need to get mine. If you're not both getting yours, it's not working. Second, psychologically, it can be hard sometimes to really listen to someone's message if our own heads are too bogged down with our thoughts and everything we're trying to say and how we want to defend ourselves. I'm going to address that part when we're the ones experiencing it in a second. But in terms of speaking with your spouse, sometimes you win by giving them a chance to have their say, get it out of their system first. You really listen, they feel heard, they feel seen, and all of the defenses start coming down. You become way more willing to listen to you, and you actually have a fighting chance of being heard yourself. So giving them a chance to have their say first could be a small concession that gets you to win the entire game overall. Both of you. Understand this part though. It's not just giving them a chance to have their say first. That's cute. But the key to this technique is to learn to listen without reacting. Now, that's easier said than done. In that moment, we're aiming for empathy. And what that means is that while our spouse is talking to us, in that moment, just temporarily setting aside our feelings, our thoughts, how we want to respond, because we're going to get to that next. Absolutely promise. But for right now, if we're in the seat of the ones that are listening, or we're allowing them to have a say first, is to try and listen from a place of how would I feel if I were coming from where they're coming from? If I were seeing things the way that they're currently interpreting them. For better or for worse, they could be wrong. They could be completely misinterpreting everything that just happened, and you can't wait for the chance to clarify and clear it up. But until you get to the part where you're going to have your say, which is coming up next, for right now, pausing on the need to defend ourselves, pausing on the need to be right, and just trying to put ourselves in their shoes for a second, however wrong it might be. A key to pulling this off is remembering that their feelings don't have to be a threat to us. Their truth can be their truth to them without that invalidating our truth and our experiences as we see them, as we're experiencing them. We can both be hurt about a certain situation. There doesn't have to be one designated bad guy. I'll give you an example of a couple I was recently talking to. The wife in the situation is the leader of a small team in her large workplace. She finds out that there's a potluck happening, and since she is leading her team, everyone's kind of looking up to her to see what she's going to bring to this thing. There's a little bit of built-in pressure, like, hey, this is your chance to give your team's appreciation, so make sure you really step up for this event. So she's venting to the husband, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is the last thing I needed. I've got so much else going on right now, and now I'm supposed to do some kind of home cooking or something. So the day before the event, the husband thinks to himself, man, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to put a huge smile on her face when she sees how I solved this problem for her. He went to the fish market. He got fresh lobster. He made this recipe for lobster mac and cheese that he was extremely proud of, Took him hours to do because he does everything from scratch. It was just masterpiece. On top of that, she really enjoys this dish anyway. So the minute she finds out that this is what he's making, you know how we get that like reaction built up in our heads. We're like, oh my God, when they see this, they are going to, oh, this is going to be so great. She gets home at the end of the day, sees the giant feast of lobster mac and cheese. He's excited. He's ready to be the hero of the moment, but she doesn't react the way he wants. She almost burst into tears. She goes, oh my God, why would you do this? How much did all of this cost? I cannot believe you would go off and do this without even talking to me. She's upset, and he's not understanding why. Little does he know that just a few days ago, someone on the team made a huge request to everybody about please make sure you're being mindful of allergies for this potluck. Someone on the team had a deathly allergy to nuts and shellfish. So if she, as leader of the team, were to show up on potluck day after that huge declaration or that request of the team with lobster mac and cheese, imagine what kind of a message that would send to her team. Not the best move. But he doesn't know this. He's just trying to do something kind and loving for his wife. She did not react the way he was expecting, and now he's blowing up going, why do I even bother? Oh my gosh, you're so ungrateful. This is the last time I do something like this for you. Storms off. Now, try to imagine if this couple had been sitting down attempting to do this listening with empathy technique, how hard it would be for them to sit through a conversation where they are having to hear someone tell them, oh, I can't believe you would do something like this, or oh, you're so ungrateful. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of discipline and skill and practice. But working on being able to sit and listen to someone express themselves and just empathize with them before we've had a chance to say our part or explain our side of things is a skill that not only goes a long way in our relationships, but also with any interactions with all humans in life. Master this skill, and you unlock emotional intelligence for any situation across the board. If we can get better about listening to our spouses with empathy, you are going to start seeing those defenses come down. They're going to start feeling seen and heard and no longer have to be fighting to be understood. Suddenly you're going to have a spouse who's way more open to now hearing what you have to say. Which brings us to technique number 2. How do we express ourselves in a way that actually gets them to listen and not get defensive or offended all over again? The first almost feels obvious, but still has to be stated. We know that nonverbal communication takes up a huge chunk of what is communication in human interactions. So we want to make sure that we're watching our tone, our body language, how we're speaking. It's going to be very different if I'm talking to you and I'm going like this versus if I'm talking to you like this. And the words can still be the same, but how we're saying them is going to help decrease their defensiveness and actually get them to hear what we're trying to get across. The next part that I always recommend and I use for myself, works like a charm, when it's time to discuss difficult things, focusing on ourselves and discussing how we feel, how something is affecting us, what our experience is always going to be received better than talking about, well, you did this and you can't seem to, and I don't understand why it's so hard for you, on and on and on. Things like using I statements to talk about myself or focusing on the feeling or the experience instead of the facts of what happened are going to go a long way. I'll give you an example with a simple someone taking out the trash. It comes across differently, it gets received differently if we're saying, you forgot to take the trash out again, compared to, hey, lately I've been really stressed out. I've got a lot on my shoulders and I've got so much stuff on my plate. I've been going through this stuff. This is what I've been experiencing. To then get home and notice that the trash still hasn't been taken out, for me, it would mean so much if you could help me with that and make sure we're taking out the trash, because that would be so impactful. Blah, blah, blah. Talking about my feelings and my experience is going to be better received. It's harder to argue with compared to the times that couples argue about what was said and what was done or what wasn't said. Earlier on in my marriage, before I really understood this principle, I remember wishing so hard that I could just have like a camera following us around everywhere whenever we would argue or whenever something happened. So I could just replay and show them, look, this is what you said, or that's not what I said, or see, you didn't X, Y, and Z. But wasting time going back in circles talking about who remembers the event better and what did or did not actually happen is missing the entire point. The point is how it affected us, and that is much harder to argue with. The last thing I would say about making sure that we're really being heard effectively is practice coming to the table with a solution already in mind. Even if it's not what you guys end up doing as a couple or what ultimately becomes the solution to the problem, sometimes problems don't even have proper solutions. Sometimes it can't be solved that easily. But coming to the table with just the complaint of, hey, this thing, taking out the trash, whatever, it's not working. You need to fix it, or we need to fix it. This isn't working. Is going to have a different response, a different reaction compared to saying, hey, lately the way we've been taking out the trash has not been working. So I was kind of thinking, what if we tried doing this other thing instead? What do you think? Could that work? Do you have something better in mind? Let's talk about it. One of them has a much more collaborative spirit and is going to invite that conversation and shows that we're focused on making it work rather than just coming off as nagging or complaining or rubbing your mistakes in my face again or something like that. And that brings me to my third and final technique for fighting fair, which is, in general, as a couple, try to approach problem solving like a team. When we approach a problem as us pitted against each other and who's in the right, who's going to be the one who was wrong and now owes penance to the other, who's essentially walking away from the argument, the loser of the conversation, we're back to that problem of the whole relationship is losing. You can't win as one joined entity if one of you is losing or is feeling like they're walking away getting the raw end of the deal. When we approach problems like, hey, you and I are in this together, I don't know how, but somehow we're going to figure this out together, the problem might never even be solved. There are issues in life that sometimes don't have answers, but whether the problem gets solved or doesn't, or it takes some time to figure it out, if we're approaching it like we're going to do this together, it just feels better overall. It's not you're in the wrong or here I go needing to defend myself again. It's the problem is the bad guy. And you and me, we're going to see this through. If we can master that, along with the other techniques I just mentioned in this conversation, this will basically create the perfect storm for any kind of conflict to actually lead you to feel stronger and closer than if you had never argued at all. Counselors know that conflict is not something to avoid, to run from, to hope we just never fight and everything will be fine. Conflict is a good thing. It can be healthy. It helps stir growth and progress when handled correctly. Let's not shy away from it. Let's embrace it as an opportunity to grow closer together by handling it together in a way that will leave both people feeling like what they had to say, what they were feeling, what they were experiencing is still valid, and you're not wrong for feeling the way you did. Even if someone in the relationship really did mess up, I made a mistake, or my husband made a mistake, and now it's time to talk about it and hash it out. It's never really about whether or not someone messed up. It's about how we handle it when something like that comes up. But I promised you a bonus technique, and it's time to live up to that. How do we handle it if things are so heated that we just cannot think clearly? Our blood is boiling, our prefrontal cortex is no longer in control, we're not thinking rationally anymore. How do we handle it then? How are we supposed to listen and be empathetic and talk in a way that doesn't escalate things when we're not even being rational anymore? Times like that, it's completely appropriate to take a little break. Now, there are constructive ways to take this break, and there are ways to do it that will end up pushing our spouse even further away. So let me explain the do's and don'ts. Do take a minute to recognize when we're feeling this way, when we've hit that point. I'm the first one to let my own husband know, you know what? I don't think this conversation is going to be productive anymore. I need to take a minute. I need to go calm down, and we can pick this up where we left off. Self-awareness is really helpful in these situations. And if we don't quite have it yet, that's another skill that can be developed. It just takes practice. Do communicate the timeout. Call it out. Say, hey, I'm feeling like I really can't. I'm just too heated right now. I need a break. Do reassure your spouse by saying something like, I still love you. I'm committed to figuring this out with you. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to figure this out together. But right now, I need to calm down. Do give your spouse a time limit. How long do you need? And stick to it. Physiologically speaking, sometimes we just need 20 minutes to go do something, calm down, bring the heart rate back down, clear our minds. It's just a chemical response in our bodies. It's the fight or flight, realizing that there's no danger anymore and we can come back to our rational selves. Other times, circumstances dictate it has to be more time than that. Maybe we had this argument first thing in the morning, and now I have to actually get to work, so I really won't get a chance to circle back to this till the end of the day. And it's okay to say, you know what? I need to calm down. My workday is about to begin. Let's talk about this tonight, 5 o'clock, 6 p.m., 9 p.m., whatever the case may be, when I get back home. Take as long as you need. Take a whole day. Take a couple of days if you have to, but whatever time you give, do make sure we actually are coming back at that time. If you say 20 minutes, come back in 20 minutes. Now here's the thing. Taking a break can be really, really helpful to keep things productive and on track, but it also has the capacity of triggering abandonment insecurities in our spouses. So here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to just storm off without saying anything. We don't want to make some kind of ominous statement like, oh, I don't know, this isn't working, I need to think about some things. The kind of might imply we could be breaking up any moment now. We don't want to say, I need some time to think about it, and not be specific about the amount of time, or make that time be indefinite. And we don't want to say that we're going to take a break and then never get back to the conversation. We do want to make sure we're honoring the time that we specifically stated, because we are going to be mentioning something specifically, right? The final thing is, when we're taking this break, let's make sure we're actually using the time in a way that's going to help us calm down. This is not the time to be stewing about how frustrating our spouse is and how we can't believe they said that thing, and getting ourselves more worked up, because the only thing that's going to happen then is we come back to the conversation at the end of the 20 minutes locked and loaded and ready for war, and that's going to escalate things even further. We do want to do activities that are going to help us calm down. Maybe if meditation is your thing, if doing some push-ups or something to get the frustration out, taking a walk, listening to some kind of calming music, just some kind of activity that's going to help us bring things back down. That's what we want to try to do. If possible, this break might actually be a really good time to also study why we're feeling the way we're feeling, why we got triggered so much, where's this even coming from, why am I feeling this extraordinary amount of anger and frustration over perhaps doing the dishes or something, like where is this coming from? But studying the anger is a whole other technique that I'm probably going to do a future video on, because it can be a more advanced, in-depth process than can really properly be explained by just one simple statement. If we can master these 3 techniques and have in our back pocket the ability to take a break in a way that's still helpful and not destructive to the relationship, we're going to start unlocking some serious power couple status here. In my next video, I want to talk to you about how to make sure the relationship is actually meeting your needs and theirs too. I also go live every second Tuesday of the month, bare minimum, but I try to do a few more live sessions beyond just that. So if you've got a question that you want to submit ahead of time that can get covered in the live session, I am including a link in the bottom of the description for this video where you can submit that. And make sure you subscribe so you get the notification of when I go live next or when this next video comes up. I hope you found some of these techniques helpful. I look forward to hearing some of the ways that you're implementing these tips. You've got this. I'll see you at the next one.